Supporters of Mitt Romney are rallying around him following that Washington Post report that he bullied a classmate nearly 50 years ago. The alleged victim died in 2004, but his family is condemning the report in a written statement. They write in part, the portrayal of John is factually incorrect, and we are aggrieved that John would be used to further a political agenda. Now, the incident allegedly happened while Romney was a student at the prestigious Cranbrook boarding school. He has apologized, but says he doesn't remember the incident. As our first read team points out, the story exposes Romney to a bigger problem. Many voters are still trying to figure out exactly who he is. Let me bring in Democratic strategist Jimmy Williams and senior political columnist for the Washington Examiner. Back with us again, Tim Carney. I'll start off with you, Tim. Let me play a little bit of how the governor responded initially to this report.
I had no idea that this person might have been gay. As the article points out, I participated in a lot of hijinks and pranks during high school. And some may have gone too far, and for that I apologize.
Again, 50 years ago, do you believe that the governor and his campaign handled this the right way? Did they give it too much, I guess, too much life?
I think that the Washington Post article was a good article. I think that the focus that has come on it from the media, from MSNBC in particular, has been absurd, and that Romney pushing this aside and attempting to talk about other issues would be the appropriate reaction, because this does not matter. One episode that happened 50 years ago nearly does not matter. Tamron, you know we have an 8.1% unemployment rate. You know that this president, waged an illegal war in Libya. You know that Romney has so many other problems. I will attack Romney on legitimate grounds. I'll talk about his economic policy being incoherent, but trying to make an issue out of Mitt Romney bullying somebody nearly 50 years ago is ridiculous, and it's a big part of the reason that most of America does not like or trust the mainstream media.
Okay, well, to add to your to-know list, you should also know that Sean Hannity did a significant portion of his show last night, and he wasn't the only one on that other network. With that said, Jimmy, let me bring you in on this. Obviously, the Romney team feeling the need to get out there and discuss this, and it is not because of our primetime coverage that they're doing that. They see that this could be a potential problem for them, timing aside, and that we are talking so much about same-sex marriage. Our first read team points out that it reminds people that he was a privileged kid, which no one is bad-mouthing that, but you have, as you well know, in popular culture, this image of the prep school kid and his jacket with the emblem being, this type of person that I can't even use the word on television, but there is an image problem here.
Look, listen, Romney has two problems with this particular incident, if you will. Not because he bullied. Let me be clear. Kids bully.
Absolutely.
I was bullied. I bullied. It happens to every kid. It's just a fact of growing up, and sometimes people take it too far. Sometimes it's just a plain old prank. Here's Romney's problem with this. First, it makes him look going to a boarding school that he is indeed out of touch. Set that aside, though. Okay?
Which, again, he went to the school where his parents, I mean, listen, if a lot of people were able to afford to send their kid to you can't knock him for the school he attended, right?
No doubt about it. But that's not my problem with Mitt Romney on this issue. My problem with Mitt Romney is that we have a pattern. The pattern here is he can't get his story straight. The pattern here is that he can't seem to figure out what his message is on this issue. Every day that Mitt Romney is not talking about the economy and the Obama campaign is talking about this kind of stuff is bad for Mitt Romney. And I've got to be honest with you, he keeps going over and over and over again, repeating dumb stuff. His, Ed Gillespie went on Chuck Todd's show yesterday and said he doesn't remember it. I'm sorry. When you pin a kid down and you cut his hair off, you remember these kinds of things. And then he did the right thing and apologized, but you just can't run around and say you don't remember these kinds of things. It's a poor excuse, and it's just a pattern here.
But Jimmy, we don't know.
Listen.
I think I remember most things that I've done in high school, and some of the things I probably would deny that I've done in high school. But Tim, to be fair, we don't know if the governor does not recall. We do know he's apologized, and I guess the heart of it for me, Tim, is not the quote-unquote hit job, as it's been referred to on the right, that they are alleging here. It is the response that his campaign and that Governor Romney. I just want to play another incident with Colorado. He was in Colorado, and a reporter asked him about two hot-button issues in that state, and just look at his response. Let me play it, please.
One of our viewers, Bill Ferguson, asked, should marijuana be legalized for medical use?
Aren't there issues of significance that you'd like to talk about?
The economy,
the growth of jobs, the need to put people back to work, the challenges of Iran. We've got enormous issues that we face. But you want to talk? Go ahead. Do you want to talk about medical? I think marijuana should not be legal in this country.
So there you have it, Tim, and the point is he's doing local television. That's a local reporter asking about something that is important to the people of that particular state, and his response, you know, people are raising an eyebrow about.
Okay, well, I'll talk about the marijuana in 1 second, but what you're doing here is a typical media trick. You hype up a story, and then you justify the second-day coverage of the story by saying, oh, well, people are talking about it. Here's how Romney responded to it. No, let's move on to substantive issues. You don't have to answer a single question I ask you. You do not, and you didn't have to accept the invitation to come on. You knew what we were going to be discussing. Yes,
I'm not trying to put a job on. Hang on, Tim, because you're kind of in my house here. The problem is this. The story is out there, and you're right. I am not saying that we should belabor what happened 50 years ago. We're talking about the response by the campaign and by the governor, not just on this issue. He says, for example,
you are bringing up a meta story here, which is what is Romney response to this other non-story? I'm trying to go meta on you and say here's some media treatment.
You don't want me to go anything on you because you're actually irritating me right now. I'm going to be honest with you because yes, you are, because you knew the topics we were going to discuss. You knew them. You agreed, and we are not talking or demeaning. Listen, 50 years ago, I was a much tougher kid probably than Mitt Romney was in high school. I'm not talking about the issue of whether he was bullying or not. He says he doesn't remember. To be fair, I cannot say he does. What I'm asking you about is how the campaign has handled this decision, handled this situation, how he handled the Colorado reporter, how he handled same-sex marriage, where he said he agrees with gay parents being able to adopt, but he does not agree with same-sex marriage. Just the handling of questions beyond the economy. If you're not comfortable talking about that, I am A-OK, but you're not going to come on and insult me. You're not going to come on and insult the network when you knew what you were going to talk about. Done. Now let me talk to Jimmy. Jimmy, I'm done. Jimmy, yes, I am. Jimmy, let me go to you. And I say this with all great respect because we're not ambushing Jimmy or Tim. We want you to talk about just this story and how it is being handled, the pros and cons of it. It's a part of a political conversation that his campaign has felt the need to defend, rightfully so, Mr. Romney. They also indicated they believe it was exaggerated and off base, that anyone who knows Romney knows that he does not have a mean spirit in his body. So this is a fair conversation about the handling of this situation. Jimmy?
Look, yeah, listen, his campaign, in my opinion, has not handled it the best way they could have. If I were advising Mitt Romney, my advice to him would be simple. Say, look, I don't remember it. If I did it, I'm sorry. It's bad treatment, and let's move on. However, I got to take a little bit of issue here. In 2004, how did George Bush win his re-election? Gay marriage, gay marriage, gay marriage all day long. So, frankly, this idea that we can't have a substantive conversation about issues that actually affect people besides the economy is a red herring. We can have a conversation about those, and clearly Mitt Romney does not want to have a conversation about gay marriage or adoption or medical marijuana or anything that doesn't have to do with GDP and jobs. I get why he doesn't want to do that because he's uncomfortable in that realm, but his campaign has got to be more nimble.
Perhaps he's made his statement, Jimmy, made his stance clear. Again, the president only this week made a clearer statement about same-sex marriage. To be fair to Governor Romney, obviously, we all know it is about the economy. He feels that that is his strong point. He is a businessman who wants to point out what he believes he can do for this country. In addition, however, to that, we know that the dominant story this week was same-sex marriage, and we know that his campaign took this Washington Post report seriously enough so that they have responded in a serious, substantive way, I believe, to something they know could be a concern to some people, even though it happened 50 years ago.
Well, it's a timing issue because, I mean, let's be honest. If the president had not come out in support of gay marriage or equal marriage equality this week, I'm not sure that this story would have been as prescient, frankly. But since it is, and it's the same exact week, then listen, listen, if Mitt Romney wins, he's going to be my president, and I'm a gay American. Right. And frankly, if he thinks I don't deserve the exact same equal rights that, you know, his kids do to be able to get married, then, you know what? Guess what? That does affect me, and his campaign is running a campaign against that. And so, you know, when you walk into a ballot, when you walk into a voting booth, you pull the curtain. It's remarkably personal. You vote your personal issues there. And when I walk in, I vote the person that's going to be with me more. And guess what? Mitt Romney's not. He's uncomfortable iterating those.
We also know that in this country there are people who obviously subscribe to the same viewpoint as Mitt Romney, and that's why it's a conversation here. I greatly appreciate you joining me. I do the same for Tim, but we have to be able to have conversations and not do quote-unquote hit jobs on each other when we know we're guests on the show. Thank you both. No way a judge refuses to dismiss the case against John Edwards after a last